Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7 on Friday, the 17th of November. My name is Brian Liddy, and apologies for our tardiness this evening, but I'm here with a roundup of today's news, either to round off your week or to start your weekend. Hello, good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7 on Friday the 17th of November. My name is Brian Liddy, coming in for a second attempt at starting tonight's show. Apologies for our lateness and then for our technical hitch. But I'm here now to give you a roundup of the week's news to either finish your week or start your weekend. So a routine Ukraine update, day 632. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron has vowed to maintain military support for Ukraine during a surprise visit to Kyiv on Thursday. The visit by Cameron came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the flow of vital artillery ammunition from Western allies had dropped off since the start of the Israel-Hamas war last month. Cameron also visited the southern port city of Odessa on his first trip abroad as Foreign Secretary. President Zelensky has told reporters that Russian forces were likely stockpiling missiles for strikes on his country's energy facilities over the coming winter months. A Russian court sentenced a St. Petersburg artist to 7 years in prison. Alexandra Sasha Skochelenko, an artist, musician and activist, was found guilty on Thursday of knowingly spreading false information about the Russian army in March 2022. The artist replaced 5 price tags in a local supermarket with pieces of paper urging shoppers to stop the war and resist propaganda on television. More than 2,400 children from Ukraine, aged between 6 and 17 years old, have been taken to 13 facilities across Belarus since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, research published by Yale University said. Ukraine's Prosecutor General said in May that he was investigating the alleged role of Belarus in the forced transfer of more than 19,000 identified children from Russian-occupied territories since the conflict broke out, including to Russia. Russian shelling killed 2 people and injured at least 12 on Thursday in different areas of southern Ukraine's Kherson region, local officials said. Northrop Grumman is exploring producing 120mm tank ammunition in Poland as the US ally surges defence production capacity, the company's chief told Reuters. The countries geographically close to Russia, such as Poland, Finland and Germany, have been exploring deals to build US weapons in Europe, negotiating new deals to buy arms and looking to speed up existing contracts as the war in Ukraine reshaped thinking on the volume of munitions needed in future conflicts. The European Commission has produced a 12th round of sanctions against Moscow, including restrictions on scores of individuals, apparently including the son of the former president Dmitry Medvedev and a relative of Vladimir Putin. The US has imposed sanctions on maritime companies and vessels for shipping Russian oil sold above the G7's price cap, as Washington seeks to close loopholes in the mechanism designed to punish Moscow for its war in Ukraine. Turkey's parliament opened a long-delayed debate on Sweden's NATO aspirations that could strengthen Ankara's ties with Western allies despite its fury over Israel's war with Hamas. Polish trucking representatives said they would expand a border protest against Ukraine by blocking another crossing for cargo vehicles. Ukraine has so far failed to reach an agreement in talks with Polish transport companies that have been blocking cargo at 3 major border points for almost 2 weeks. And now the latest on Israel and Gaza. At least 11,470 Palestinians, including 4,707 children and 3,155 women, have been killed in the Gaza Strip since the Israeli-Gaza war broke out 6 weeks ago, according to Palestinian health authorities. The vast majority have been killed in Israeli airstrikes. In recent days, the Palestinian Health Ministry in the West Bank has started updating the Gaza death toll after the Health Ministry in Gaza was forced to stop publishing updates after ministry officials based in Shifa Hospital lost electricity and connectivity. A doctor at Shifa has said Israeli forces had found nothing during searches of the hospital complex and that food and water were running out. It's a totally terrifying situation, Ahmed El Mokhalatlati told journalists. They are shooting all the time at all areas. Civilians in parts of southeast Gaza have been told in leaflets dropped by Israeli aircraft to move into a smaller safe zone in the coastal town of Mawasi, which covers just 14 square kilometres, that's 5.4 square miles, prompting warnings from the heads of 18 UN agencies and international aid groups. There are already 1.6 million displaced people in Gaza, more than two-thirds of its population. Most fled the north after similar warnings that nowhere in or around Gaza City would be safe for civilians. The UN has warned that Gaza civilians face the immediate possibility of starvation and that overcrowding and lack of clean water are speeding the spread of diseases as winter approaches. Deliveries of already scarce food and other supplies have been halted in recent days because of shortages of fuel for trucks and a communications blackout now in its second day that has made it impossible to coordinate deliveries, aid agencies have said. The Israeli military has said it has retrieved the body of a soldier, Noah Marciano, who had been held captive by Hamas in the building near Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. It comes after the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, said on Thursday they had found the body of Yehudit Weiss, one of about 240 hostages taken on the 7th of October in a building near the hospital. Israeli security forces have mounted a major raid in the city of Jenin, destroying roads and killing between 3 and 5 Hamas militants in the latest instance of surging violence across the occupied West Bank. Hamas said 3 of its fighters had died in the raid, which began late on Thursday night and lasted about 8 hours. Israeli military officials said their forces had killed at least 5 militants. Israel's national security advisor has said the country's war cabinet had agreed to allow 2 tanker trucks of fuel to enter the Gaza Strip each day, a quantity he described as very minimal. Greece's foreign minister, George Gerapetrakis, has said talks on opening a humanitarian aid corridor into North Gaza could soon yield results. The EU's Foreign Affairs Chief, Joseph Borrell, has urged the Middle East not to go back to 20 years ago, with repeated cycles of violence and conflict, as he continued his 4-day diplomatic push to get a plan underway for enduring peace. More than 100 pro-Palestinian events demanding a ceasefire in Gaza are due to take place across the UK this weekend, but there will be no large-scale national marches in London, according to organisers. In our next item, a new Scottish Government paper published by External Affairs Secretary Angus Robertson has said that independence is the only realistic route to Scotland to regain the benefits of EU membership. The 7th paper in the Building a New Scotland series puts out the benefits for people and businesses that would occur from Scotland having direct representation in the European Union for the first time. These include being part of the world's largest single market with reduced barriers to trade, free flows of data and less bureaucracy, open access to a larger labour market with no restrictions on employing EU citizens to work in Scotland, thereby sustaining businesses, universities, communities and public services. The EU's network of highly favourable international free trade agreements and EU-level representation on market access issues and food production standards in international negotiations and disputes, and the opportunity to influence future EU regulatory requirements and standards. A level playing field to access the EU's digital economy, including through Scotland's expertise in games and software development, artificial intelligence, data science and connectivity. Also, the Erasmus Plus exchange programme, giving future students the same opportunities as previous generations to work and study abroad. Also, multi-year funding security for Scotland's farming and rural businesses through the Common Agricultural Policy. Then there's the EU law enforcement tools to help police and prosecutors fight cross-border crime and threats more effectively. The paper also highlights what Scotland could contribute to the EU as a member state with its strength in renewable energy, research and innovation, and shared values such as respect for human rights and international law. Mr Robertson said, 7 years after Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain, the paper we are publishing today sets out how we could meaningfully reverse the damage of Brexit and regain and enhance the benefits of EU membership by joining as an independent country. He went on to say this would give Scotland direct representation in European decision-making for the very first time, providing opportunities for our economy to grow inside a market which is 7 times the size of the UK and escapes the damage of the UK's hard Brexit, which is hitting Scotland's economy and communities hard. He continued, our knowledge, shared values and close alignment with EU law means Scotland is well placed to fulfil all necessary steps required to become a member state, whilst creating a new and better relationship with our close friends in the rest of the UK. We are also well placed to give back to the EU as a welcoming and inclusive country with strengths in research and renewables and a steadfast commitment to advancing human rights and the rule of international law. He hopes that this paper and the proposals it puts forward will be read and debated widely by people in Scotland. I look forward both to that continuing debate and to the day when Scotland becomes independent, working closely with all our friends in a great shared endeavour that can help bring about a better Scotland and a better Europe. The UK Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, is considering slashing the UK inheritance tax rate in next week's autumn statement after economic forecasters told the Chancellor he would have more money to spend thanks to rising tax revenues and falling borrowing costs. Hunt is weighing up his cuts to the tax people pay after inheriting wealth, paid for in part either by better than expected government spending forecasts and by raising benefits by less than expected. The Chancellor had been expected to hold off from cutting taxes until next year, as he and Rishi Sunak continue to focus on reducing inflation. But after inflation fell further than expected last month, and with Tory MPs clamouring for a pre-election giveaway, sources say the Chancellor is open to the idea of doing it sooner. Officials at the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, will present their forecasts to the Chancellor on Friday for how much headroom he has to spend on giveaways without breaking his own fiscal rules. Hunt is also considering raising extra revenue by putting benefits up by 4.6% to keep up with October's inflation figures, rather than the 6.7%, which would be in line with September's figures. This change could save ministers £2 billion, but would hit an estimated 9 million households and cost single mothers an estimated £218 a year. The SNP has responded to the Chancellor's proposals to crack down on welfare payments and associated benefits in his autumn budget. The proposals will see thousands of people cut off from accessing crucial benefits, such as free prescriptions and dental treatment, as well as help from energy suppliers. Jeremy Hunt's plans have already been widely criticised, with James Taylor, Director of Strategy at the disability equality charity Scope, saying it's all stick and no carrot. Where is a clear positive vision for disabled people and disability employment? David Linden MP, the SNP's social justice spokesperson, has warned that the Tories' latest austerity-driven budget shows exactly why Scotland needs the full powers of independence, so that Holyrood can have full control over welfare, employment and its economy. Commenting, David Linden MP went on to say, ahead of what is likely to be another callous Tory budget, once again it is the most vulnerable in our society who will suffer the most. The Chancellor's decision to deliberately target the poorest in our society by stripping away free prescription and dental treatment underlines the lack of moral empathy this government has. In contrast, in Scotland, under the SNP, every person is entitled to free prescriptions, while those under the age of 26 or those who are pregnant or nursing mothers are also entitled to free dental treatment. Excuse me. On the second day of his visit to Scotland, Sir Keir Starmer has said that if Labour wins the next general election, he would set up a £2.5 billion British Jobs Bonus Fund to prioritise investment in clean energy technologies in regions heavily dependent on North Sea oil in the North East and England and Aberdeen. Forgive me, in the northeast of England and in Aberdeen. He is proposing to support development in carbon capture and storage to support pumping waste CO2 into depleted North Sea oil fields, building floating wind farms for deep water sites, and investing in green hydrogen. Commenting on Sir Keir Starmer's power trip, SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn said, "It's taken more than 3 years, but Sir Keir Starmer has finally travelled north in order to assess Aberdeen's riches, our energy, our workforce and our potential. The big question he has repeatedly failed to answer is why we should continue to trust Westminster with Scotland's energy wealth when we all know they've squandered it in comparison to the likes of our Norwegian neighbours. Make no mistake, the Scottish people should have their fair share and benefit from these revenues, both in terms of cheaper bills, but also jobs and investment." He went on to say, "The fact is, Scotland's energy should be in Scotland's hands. We know Scotland has the energy, we just need the power." People from working class backgrounds employed in professional careers earn £6,000 less compared to those from other backgrounds in the same jobs. Findings from the Social Mobility Foundation show, underscoring the UK's shameful class pay gap. Professionals from poorer upbringings face an average salary of £45,437. That's 12% lower than the £51,728 for people from more affluent origins in research based on quarterly labour force surveys from 2014 to 2022. Alan Milburn, Social Mobility Foundation's chair, said that too many of Britain's workforces share a shameful secret. It cannot be right that professionals from working class backgrounds are paid significantly less than their peers in the same occupation. Milburn urged the government to mandate reporting of the class pay gap in efforts to close the gulf in wages by socio-economic background, as with the gender pay gap. He said, "A fair day's pay for a fair day's work is the least anyone should expect." The data suggests the 12% class pay gap could be even wider than the median gender pay gap, which, according to a Guardian analysis, was 9.4% in 2022-23. The class pay gap was even worse for female professionals from working class backgrounds, facing a 19% gap between the average professional salary for women of all backgrounds, which was £43,779, compared to those from working class backgrounds, which was £36,737. Kevin Ellis, senior partner at PwC UK, said, "The gap in pay between professionals from lower socio-economic background and their more privileged peers is not only a societal issue, but an issue for business and the economy. Businesses need diversity of talent and thought. We've seen the benefits of improving the diversity of our workforce. You can't measure this without collecting socio-economic background data." The Social Mobility Foundation analysis was conducted by Chris Percy, visiting research fellow at the University of Derby. The foundation is urging employers to disclose pay gap data. A new report from the Institute for Public Policy Research, the IPPR think tank, has said that the UK economy has lost billions of pounds in investment since 2010 amid government flip-flopping on its industrial growth plans as it churned through 11 different economic strategies. As the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, prepares for his autumn statement next week, industry bosses have warned ministers that more consistency was required to increase investment levels after more than a decade of instability. According to the IPPR report, the constant chop and change of government industrial strategy and the revolving door for senior ministerial appointments have undermined the country's ability to attract investment. The IPPR pointed out that since 2010, Conservative-led governments had appointed 9 different business secretaries and 7 chancellors, resulting in the launching of 11 economic strategies, from George Osborne's 2011 Plan for Growth to Hunt's Growth Plan announced this year. The IPPR report is backed by 2 leading business groups and the former chief executive of Siemens UK, Jürgen Meyer, and finds that the companies were crying out for consistency, certainty and clarity. Stephen Phipson, the chief executive of the manufacturing trade body, Make UK, said recent governments have been so confused about industrial strategy that they've had 11 of them in 13 years. No wonder businesses are putting investments in the UK on hold, he said. Describing the lack of a long-term industrial strategy as the UK's Achilles heel, Phipson urged the government to set out its strategic objectives, including for growing green manufacturing. Every other major economy has a national manufacturing plan, underlying the importance of an industrial base to the success of its wider economy. The UK is an outlier, not having one, and if we are to compete on a global stage, we need one as a matter of urgency, he said. Hunt is preparing to outline the government's plan for increasing private investment and growing the economy after forecasts from the Bank of England this month showed Britain would come close to recession next year. Writing in an open letter to the Chancellor, the chief executives of 37 local chambers of commerce across the country said much needed solutions to Britain's investment problem were required. At COP28 this month, experts will argue that all healthcare facilities in poorer countries could be electrified using solar energy within 5 years for less than $5 billion, putting an end to the risk of life from power outages. Salvatore Vinci, an advisor on sustainable energy at the World Health Organization and a member of its COP28 delegation, said, "I would like the international community to commit to a deadline and funding to electrify all healthcare facilities. We have solutions now that were not available 10 years ago. There is no reason why babies should be dying today because there is not electricity to power their incubators. It's a low-hanging fruit. There is nothing stopping us," he said. About 1 billion people around the world do not have access to healthcare facility with a stable electricity connection, including 433 million in low-income countries who rely on facilities with no electricity at all, according to the World Health Organization's Energising Health, Accelerating Electricity Access in Healthcare Facilities report, which was published in January and co-authored by Vinci. Electricity is the lifeblood of a functioning healthcare facility, not only powering devices such as ventilators and cardiac monitors, but providing basic amenities such as lighting. Without these basic facilities, even routine conditions can be deadly or lead to complications. Healthcare facilities in countries vulnerable to the impact of extreme weather events will often experience outages because of storms and flooding. We don't know how many people die each year because of power outages. Nobody puts power outage as a cause of death on a death certificate, said Hippolyte Amadi, bioengineering professor at Imperial College London. As we speak, patients in low and middle-income countries are dying due to power outages and poor lighting. They're dying because their life support machines were switched off or because they have been given the wrong medication by staff who cannot see what they are doing or because the surgeon working in the dark made a mistake. While lack of lighting puts maternal and surgery patients at the biggest immediate risk, an unreliable energy source makes long-term treatments such as kidney dialysis untenable. As the burden of chronic non-communicable diseases, NCDs, rises in the global south, the strain on poorly electrified facilities will increase. 12 organisations working with asylum seekers in northern France have written to the French government officials warning them of a catastrophic situation as large numbers of people try to survive in insanitary conditions while they wait for a change in the weather so they can try to cross the channel to the UK. The letter to the French government is signed by NGOs, including l'Auberge des Migrants Calais Food Collective, Médecins du Monde Nord Littoral, Utopia 56, and Le Secours Catholique Délégation du Pas de Calais. There have been crossings on only 2 days since the 8th of November due to poor weather conditions, so more and more asylum seekers are waiting in northern France. Almost 1,000 people crossed in 19 boats on the 12th and 16th of November. Axel Godina of Utopia 56 warned that asylum seekers in Calais and Dunkirk were at risk of death because living conditions had never been as dire and dangerous as they are now. He told journalists that the combination of unprecedented numbers in northern France at the moment, about 2,000 in Calais and 1,500 in Dunkirk, along with the stormy weather and failure of the French government to provide enough basic shelter for lone children, pregnant women and families, was a disaster waiting to happen. He said these conditions were so bad that some people could die in France before trying to make the dangerous crossing across the Channel. He said, "We are lucky nobody has died yet during the storms and bad weather when living conditions have been particularly bad." He went on to say, "But we are raising the alarm because there will be a drama, a really tragic event if nothing is done." In previous winters, local government officials have provided emergency shelter for families and lone children. But this winter, shelter has not been available for everyone, and many have been forced to sleep in the open air in freezing and muddy conditions. The letter goes on to say the organisations are writing to local government officials concerning the catastrophic situation of people exiled in Calais. It adds that hundreds of people are being denied access to water, showers and food distribution while police are continuing with expulsions from makeshift places of shelter. There is currently an emergency, and we ask you to find solutions so that the physical security, dignity, and fundamental rights of exiled people are respected, the letter says. It adds, no state solution has been proposed. The right to have a roof over your head, recognised by the International Convention on Human Rights of the Child, is once again violated with complete impunity. Along with the lack of shelter, many people living outside in saturated conditions are going hungry because NGOs that provide meals are running out of basics such as tea, coffee and bread, and are resorting to using canal water because they are not getting access to fresh water. Godina said, "The situation is getting worse and worse and we don't have any solutions. Before, we were fighting to get people shelter. Now, we're fighting just to get them water. There is so much humanitarian need, but France is doing less than before. We are completely desperate, tired and sad." The University of Glasgow has been awarded a Queen's Anniversary Prize for Higher Education for the work of the world's leading centre for the study of Scotland's national poet. The prize was awarded to the university in recognition of the range and impact of the projects undertaken at the Centre for Robert Burns Studies, chiefly editing and curating Burns for the 21st century. The Queen's Anniversary Prize celebrated excellence, innovation and public benefit in work carried out by UK colleges and universities. The prizes, which showcase the positive impact of research on education, the economy and wider society, are the highest national honour awarded in the UK further in higher education and are granted every 2 years. They are run by the Royal Anniversary Trust, an independent charity. Colleagues at the Centre for Robert Burns Studies said, "We are thrilled and honoured that Burns Studies at Glasgow has been awarded the Queen's Anniversary Prize. The team have worked extremely hard to channel our unique concentration of expertise to create a world-leading research centre, illuminating Burns' life, works, economic impact and legacy through interdisciplinary scholarship, cutting-edge teaching and wide-reaching knowledge exchange activity with a worldwide network of scholars, Burns enthusiasts and stakeholders. They went on to say that this very significant endorsement of Burns studies at Glasgow means a great deal to us insofar as it recognises the cultural significance of Burns as a national and international poet and the impact of our major research projects to secure and evolve Burns' textual, economic and wider cultural legacies for the 21st century. We are excited by the possibility that an honour such as this will draw yet further attention to Burns' iconic international status, and it's our intention to harness this to catapult Burns' studies into yet another new and exciting phase of research. Professor Sir Anton Muscatelli, Principal and Vice-Chancellor of the University of Glasgow, said, "I am delighted and proud that the Royal Anniversary Trust has seen fit to honour the incredible work of our Centre for Burns Studies with one of the Queen's Anniversary Prize Awards. I congratulate the entire team at CRBS, colleagues, students, partners and alumni on this richly deserved recognition. Burns' enduring appeal continues to drive interest not just in his work and life, but in Scotland as a whole, which has in turn helped to drive tourism, economic benefit, and has positioned our centre as a leader in research, innovation and education in this field." He added, "The university is truly honoured to have these efforts recognised, and this wonderful news means that the University of Glasgow now has 6 Queen's Anniversary Prizes and has been successful in 4 of the past 6 rounds of the prizes. I am proud of and grateful to everyone across the university who has played a part in this success. This is the 6th time that the University of Glasgow has won a Queen's Anniversary Prize. Previously, the university won in 1994, 1998, 2013, 2017 and 2021. Well, that is it for this evening, but before we go, I just want to remind you that here at Broadcasting Scotland, as you know, we depend on the generosity of you, our supporters. So, to everyone who has donated and to everyone who has signed up to make a regular monthly payment, we thank you very much. You know that our programmes will always be free to view. However, if you could afford £5 a month, please do consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. Our need to reach our £30,000 target to pay our bills is still pressing. Due to the generosity of you, our supporters, we've raised so far over £20,800. However, our need to raise the remaining £9,200 is now really urgent. So, good night and thank you for watching, and we'll be back with the full Scottish on Sunday with back to normal as well, we hope. Good night, have a good weekend.